Am I audible? Okay, great. So let's get started with big data analytics once again. Right. So I'm just leading you gradually to Hadoop and MapReduce. Right. We are talking about the past first, then the problems, and then the solutions. Right. So that's the approach with which we are proceeding towards Hadoop and MapReduce. Right. So let me share my screen. So the formal definition of big data, which is given by Gartner, is this one, right? So big data is a high volume, high velocity, and high variety information assets that demand cost effective, innovative forms of information processing for enhanced insight and decision making. So we can just break this down into three different parts, right? So it is all about high volume, high velocity, and high variety. So many times when you will Google for big data, right, people are only talking about its associated V's, right? So the very first definition attached only three V's to big data, and that is volume, velocity, and veracity. Sorry, what is the third one? Variety, right? So these are the three V's that are associated by default initially. But later on, they realized that there are a lot of other V's also that can be associated with big data. So we'll also talk about few other V's, right? So some of them are saying there are five V's associated, some of them are saying there are six V's associated, right? But the actual intention behind big data is same, right? So it is all about this high volume, high velocity, and high variety information assets. Now that we have lot of data, we need some cost effective ways. It's not that we will have to invest millions and billions of rupees to just process this data. No, we don't want this, right? We want very cost effective solution, and we want very innovative forms of processing now, because we have huge amount of data, right? Without investing lot of money, we want to process it, and the outcomes of this processing will help you to take better decisions, right? It would give you the insight, right? So that is the definition of big data. The sources, Gartner IT glossary, right? So you can just I don't say I don't remember if I told you about book or not. So this is the front page of this book. Seema Acharya and Subhashini Chelappan. Maybe see, Seema Acharya is from Infosys, right? And this is the book that you might refer. But we are going beyond this book, so please don't only focus on book only, because this is a technology where probably book will become outdated every year, right? So soon you will realize this, right? When people were talking about Mahout and all, we were when we were talking about data mining and data warehousing, people were working on Mahout. Anyone is aware of Mahout? The spelling is there in your chat box. Anyone is aware of this? Please tell me yes or no so that I can explain if you don't know. Okay. So Mahout is a was a very popular tool for machine learning actually. So industries were working on Mahout, right? When we started learning Mahout, industries were working on something called as ML Lib. Any idea about ML Lib? Anyone? No. Okay. So ML Lib is one component of Spark, actually, Apache Spark, right? So when we started learning about Hadoop, industries started moving to Spark. When we started learning Mahout, industries started working on ML And in fact, Mahout, the hard reality is the people who brought Mahout, they themselves shifted to ML right? So this is a very fast running technology, right? So if we just rely, this book was written, it is not so old book, right? But still the content, if you will see, you will find it little outdated. The only reason is we are learning the technical subject where a lot of technologies are involved and technologies are being changed very fast, right? So that is the reason we will not only rely on this book, right? There are a lot of other references, materials, and other things which we are continuously updating for you, right? So you can of course refer for some content, but not entirely we can be dependable on any book in this subject, right? So that is the definition of big data. So now if I talk about volume, right, this is a mountain of data actually, right? So we have only been comfortable with kbs, with mbs, and with gbs probably, right? Recently we have started talking about terabytes, but that's our limit, right? After that we have petabyte, then we have exabyte, then we have zettabyte, and at last we have yottabytes. You can say the number of zeros here, right? We cannot even calculate. So that's the mountain of data. And usually when we talk about big data analytics, it is mostly about petabytes, exabytes, zettabytes, and yottabytes of data, right? So we have basically huge volume data. That is what we wanted to conclude, right? Then coming to velocity, see, previously we all know that there were mainframe computers and all, and whenever we want to process something, we used to do it in batch processing, right? So batch processing is we create a batch of data and then it gets processed. Then we moved to periodic, right? So periodic is, let's say, after every 5 hours we may be processing the data, so that we may call it periodic processing. Then came near real time processing, right? And now is a time for real time processing. So what does it mean? You search for some item on Amazon, right now itself they'll do processing for your search query, and they'll suggest you the items as per your interest. So it is done in fraction of seconds. Now who is doing this, how it is done, we are going to learn all of this thing, right? But I hope you are getting the concept, how we have moved from batch processing to real time processing, right? So that is about velocity. So basically the speed at which the data is getting generated and processed is getting faster and faster, right? And then variety, of course we have learned there are different types of digital data. So structured, semi structured, and unstructured, we discussed this in the last class, right? Structured is the traditional database systems which you have already learned. Semi structured is all the markup languages and your json file and your um, any such things which has little structure in it, but a computer cannot directly process it, right? We just put it into this category, semi structured, and then we have unstructured data, right? So unstructured data, we have audio, video, text, document, photos, PDF, and lot of social media comments. Now see here, email they have put it in unstructured category, whereas previously it was considered as semi-structured. So you will say you may get a question, what is right? Email is a structured data or an unstructured data? Now let me make a very important point here. The data, whether it is structured or unstructured or it belongs to semi-structured category, it entirely belongs to your problem which you have taken on hand, right? Let's say if the data is absolutely in a structured way, but the structure which is there is not at all helpful to you, it is absolutely unstructured for you, isn't it? Are you getting my point or not? Right? So maybe when you are trying to do let's say you are trying to search on Amazon and they are trying to fetch all the data regarding you, right? Now the data that they are getting, right, let's say they get your data. You are working in some multinational company and they got the employee data of that company, but right now you are searching for some food. Now, this data is absolutely structured but is of no use, because the problem at hand right now is about phone and a search query. Whereas there, your company's database contains your salary information and your leave information and all, which is not helpful to them, right? So that is the reason email previously we considered it as belonging to semi-structured category, and here it is put in unstructured category. So you might find this when you will start working in this particular subject, you might notice this thing, that sometimes they call some data as semi-structured and some data as unstructured. So this is the only reason, right? Just for your clarity I am discussing. But otherwise, see, this problem will come only when you will work on some real world problem, right? I'm just discussing this thing in advance. Right? So otherwise, the definitions of structured, semi-structured, and unstructured is very much clear to you, right? So this is about volume, velocity, and variety. Now, these are some other V's which are associated with big data as well. So, as I said, veracity is there. So, veracity means what? It basically refers to the noise in the data, right? Some abnormality in the data, right? What is considered as noise? Can someone give me an example? What is a noise? Okay. So, unwanted data, yes. Also, sometimes the data is relevant, but some of the values deviates a lot from the normal range, right? If I put this thing into example, let's talk about age attribute. Now, what is the normal range for age for a human being? For a normal human being, what is the range of age? Getting my question, or do you want me to repeat the question? I'm asking the normal range for age attribute, age of an employee. Okay, fine. So we are getting, but the range somehow I can, if I put this into a generalized manner, I can say it is 1 to 100, right? Let's say at max 100. So the range of any customer may be, let's say, 1 to 100. So age cannot be minus 50. Agree or not? But sometimes in some data you might find it minus value. Now what is the reason for this? So this is a noise actually in your data. Sometimes you may find age is equal to 500. Now nobody can live for 500 years in this current age, right? So 500 again is not a normal range. It deviates a lot from the normal range, right? Minus 50 also deviates a lot from the normal range. So these are called noise, right? In the terms of data mining, we used to call it an outlier, right? So outlier mining, outlier analysis again is a separate research field, right? We are not getting into it, but the point is whenever there is such noise. Now what can be the reasons for noise? Can you just tell me this? What are the possible reasons for having noise in the data? Can it be typing mistake? Yes or no? Yes, right? Can it be transmission error? Can it be due to transmission error? Can it be due to machine error? Yes, right. So there are various reasons due to which you may have a noise in your data, right? So we'll have to deal with it. So veracity basically refers to the noise and abnormality in the data, right? So we have such data actually, right? So that is why veracity is also associated with big data. Then it is validity, right? So validity refers to the accuracy and correctness of the data, right? So any data that you pick for analysis, that has to be very much accurate. So to have accurate data, of course some pre-processing might have to be done, right? Then volatility, the next one. So volatility of data basically deals with how long the data is valid, right? And how long it should be stored, right? So this is what we mean by volatility, right? Now see, there are some data which becomes absolutely of no use after an hour, and there might be some data which is very much useful even after days, right? So it depends on the kind of data which you have at hand, right? And then the last one is variability, right? So the data flow that is coming in, right, it doesn't come with the uh, regular velocity. Sometimes it comes with the highest velocity. Sometimes it comes with a very lower rate. Again, if I try to put this thing into example, imagine a case when some sales are declared on Amazon, let's say Big Billion Days, right? And there are, or let's say 15th August sale is there, right? So, what do you think the average traffic on that day for Amazon will be higher than the normal days or, or not? Of course, yes, right? So, it's not that data is coming in at some constant rate, no, right? There are days when it comes with highest velocity, and sometimes it is very it is coming with very low velocity, right? So that is about variability. So similarly, there can be multiple v's associated with big data. Don't worry, This is just trying to describe big data. If you understand big data already, you don't have to be worried about this formal definitions, right? So challenges with big data, of course, it is very difficult to capture every activity of a single person, right? I'm just trying to give an example. So capturing everything is also difficult, storing it is also difficult, searching for the correct thing is also difficult, analyzing it is also difficult, transferring it, visualizing it, and then privacy protection has to be there. So there are a lot of challenges associated with big data. Right now, talking about sources of big data, from where the big data gets generated. So there are multiple sources, right? We may have some docs, some business apps, social media, public web, machine log data, sensor data, archives, data storage, and the list is long actually. It's not only this thing only, right? So there are a lot of sources of big data. Now, why we are moving towards big data? What is the reason, right? Why big data analytics came into the picture, right? So basically, I guess ML lectures have been started, right? So all of you know classification or not? Yes or no? Yes, right? Great. So what is classification? If I try to put it into simple words, classification is all about reading the training data set, building a model, right? Then checking the accuracy of this model on test data set, right? And then using, if the model has good accuracy, using this model for predicting the future, right? This is all about classification. Now, what if you build a model using only 100 rows, and there is another model which you have built using 1 GB of data? Which model will be more accurate? Yes, of course, right? It is a very common logic because the second model has seen lot of varieties in the data. Probably in future also, whatever variety is coming, it will be able to classify it properly, right? So more data you have, more accuracy you will have in your classification model that gets generated, right? So more data, more accurate analysis, more confidence in decision making, right? And this ultimately gives you greater operational efficiencies, gives you cost reduction, time reduction, new product development, optimized offerings. So the advantages are, again, the list is long, right? So this is the reason why we go for big data analytics, right? Now, there is something called as traditional business intelligence as well. In short, it is called BI, right? Now, all of you have used Microsoft SQL Server or not? Yes, so all of you have worked with this, right? There is something called, there is one component in SQL Server which is called Business Intelligence Studio. We used to do practicals in it before many years, right? Probably when I joined DDU, we used to do practicals in it, right? For data mining subject. So what was that subject, right? So business intelligence is something advanced than your traditional databases, right? So in traditional databases, what do? You create a database, then every database will have some set of tables, and then this set of tables will have some relations, primary key, foreign key relationships. Then you create, update, insert, delete. You do this CRUD operations. This is all about your traditional DBMS, right? But what if I want to fire some intelligent queries, right? So there this business intelligence studio comes into the picture, right? So it helps you get a great insight into the data, right? So people used to do data mining using it, right? But very soon it became absolute, right? Because then these technologies came into the picture, right? But does that mean that it is of no use? Let us try to dig out the matter. So we have something called as traditional business intelligence. Already people, the companies, see, the MNCs have been MNCs due to their um, intelligent analysis only, right? Nobody can be successful without putting an effort. So the MNC has been MNC. Why? Because they worked smarter than other people. So they used to do this business intelligence on their data itself. We are right now not talking about machine learning or big data analytics. Business intelligence is basically analyzing our own data in a way which gives us better insight and which helps us taking better decisions in the company, right? So this is a typical data warehouse environment, right? So the company may have its own ERP system, may have ERP stands for enterprise resource planning, CRM sister CRM stands for customer relationship management, right? Legacy system, third party apps. Then it may have its own reporting and dashboarding. It may have ad hoc querying, modeling, OLAP. Basically this is online analytical processing. But all these things ultimately are stored where? They are stored in something called as data warehouse, right? So there are formal definitions given for data warehouse. You can just Google for it. But usually, if I try to put this thing into a very simple terms, data warehouse usually is the collection of data which is stored usually at a single site server, right? So being a CEO of some organization, if your company has, let's say, 8 branches across the world, then all this data gets collected at a single site, right? And is stored in something called as data warehouse. Is that clear? Data warehouse is clear? Great. Now you would say that usually storing everything in some centralized way, is it a good solution or not? What is the reason why it is not good? Yes, exactly. So there can be single point of failure, right? You see, usually data warehouses are very protected by all means because that's very important data, right? But still, there is a chance of single point of failure. What you would do at max? There is a single server. If you are, let's say, you are making lot of profit from the organization, you will say, let's back up this server. So what you'll do, you will buy another server, right? And you will put it there, right? But what happens if, let's say, you had a data warehouse at Bombay office, you had a backup server as well, but the entire building crashed. So your data warehouse gone even after having a backup server? Yes or no? Now you are deciding, let's have servers at different locations, right? Let's say, let's have it in Bombay, and then let's have it in Ahmedabad as well. But but see, you are just reducing the probability of failure, but it can be there, the probability is there, that at some point of time, probably due to some reasons, both servers are not working. The chances are there or not? Of course the chances are less, but they are there, right? So this centralized approach is not working, and that's the reason the absolutely decentralized approach came into picture, which is all about big data analytics. So of course right now I'm just talking about single organization. Hadoop and big data is not at all about a single organization, right? It is every time about the data of an entire world only, right? So please keep this thing in mind, but just to explain you, I'm taking this example. So this is a typical Hadoop environment, right? So in Hadoop, what happens? We have weblogs, we have images and videos, we have social media, docs, PDFs. Everything gets stored on something called as HDFS. HDFS is Hadoop's own file system, which is absolutely distributed, right? Its full form is Hadoop Distributed File System, right? So I'm not going into too much detailing of this thing right now because it would be little tricky to explain you this environment as of now. So the next, once I finish these slides, I'm just moving towards Hadoop. So then we are going to discuss everything in detail, right? Now, of course, does that mean that now that we have Hadoop environment, the data warehouse concept and business intelligence is gone? No, that is not the case, right? Sometimes they coexist as well, right? So please remember, at this point, I just want to clarify one thing. We have been talking about big data analytics since 3 lectures. But does that mean that big data analytics is everything and we can just throw away our RDBMS? What do you think? Okay. What about others? What do you think? Yes, so let me make a very clear point here that when I talk about big data analytics, of course, it has lot of power, but there is no comparison between the traditional databases and big data, right? I'm just leading you to big data analytics from RDBMS because you started your journey with RDBMS, but actually RDBMS is meant for something different and BDA is actually meant for something different, right? The main goal of RDBMS is transactional processing, right? So we have that acid property, right? Atomicity and acid property, inconsistency. I don't remember all of them as of now, right? But I am very much sure that you are aware of acid property. So, which is very important, right? So that remains there for transaction processing and all. Big data analytics has a different goal, right? It is mainly for doing real time analysis, right? So both has a different purpose, right? So both has its own importance. So we cannot replace our traditional databases with BDA, with the big data, right? Also talking about business intelligence, many of the companies are yet very much comfortable with their own business intelligence environment for analyzing their sales report and all, right? So they are using it, but then to enhance their business further, right? If they want to take some decision making which is not depending on only their own data, there they are using the BDA, right? So BDA and traditional databases cannot be compared. Actually, both has its own um, a segment where they are working and doing very well, right? So with this note, I'm just ending with the talk on what is BDA. So, if any one of you have any doubt regarding what we have discussed till now, please do ask, or else I'm just moving towards Hadoop now. So, all of you have installed Hadoop or not? Is it taught in lab session or not? Maybe not, right? Because just one lab has been done. Yes, so you'll be doing it. Anyways, fine. So, I hope all of you are ready to go ahead with Hadoop now. Very important technology to learn as a computer student these days, right? Fine. So all of you are ready to start with Hadoop. Please, I repeat once again, I'll not be able to share all the PPTs and all with you because the current PPT which I was showing to you, it was given to us by the author itself, and we were told not to share it with anyone due to copyright issues and all. They have their own mottos, right? Otherwise nobody will buy a book. So that is the reason we will not be able to share it. Even the next PPT that I'm going to start with, um, again I'll not be able to share. So I would recommend each one of you to make a note of everything, right? Fine. So let us proceed further with Hadoop. Yes, so what is Hadoop is known to you or not? What is Hadoop? Any idea? Okay. So these no's are for previous question. Right now nobody has answered. Anyone knows what is Hadoop or not? I just want yes or no answer. I don't want to detailed answer about Hadoop. Have you heard of Hadoop or not? Am I audible or not? I no answer. I feel like nobody is listening to me. Am I audible? Okay, great. Thanks for confirming. I thought I'm just speaking alone. Okay, great. So it is okay if you don't know Hadoop, right? We are just starting with it. So we'll start with a small story, right? So let's say there is one person who opened a small restaurant. This is a nice story which I found, so I just took it to explain you Hadoop, right? It would help you understand and understand Hadoop properly. It would help you have a very strong base about Hadoop, right? Because if things get fit to our mind from the first lecture itself, then it remains there forever. This is my experience. And sometimes if something goes above head, then it goes above head forever. Then we never try to understand it, right? So that's the reason reason I have taken this story to explain you what Hadoop is all about, right? So that it gets printed in your brain what is Hadoop and how it works, right? So there is a person called Bob, and he has opened a small restaurant in the city, right? Now, when you open a restaurant, what do you need, right? You need a cook to cook the food, and then you need, of course, food ingredients, right? Using which the cook will be cooking the food, right? So there is a single cook right now, and will be cooking, and then there is a food shelf from where he gets all the ingredients. Now if we try to put this thing into the computer system, right, the cook is cooking, is processing the ingredients. So in your um, case, who is the cook for a computer system? Who does cooking for you? Who does processing for you? Come on, it's there. Yes. So processor basically, right? Your processor. So your processor is someone who does all the processing for you. But to process something, what you need, if a cook has to make some very good dish, he or she needs some ingredients or not. Similarly, if a processor has to process something, it needs some data or not. Yes. So in our example, if we try to put the same scenario into our computer system, we can say cook is our processor and the food shelf is our data, right? Traditional RDBMS as of now. So this is our traditional system, right? So I hope up to now all of you are with me. Now, going further, because it was a very new restaurant, they were not getting lot of customers, right? Hardly they were getting only 2 orders per hour. So there was a single cook who can, of course, they would be keeping some things um, uh, which are cooked already, processed already. So serving these 2 orders per hour was a happy scenario for this cook as of now, right? So he was working happily, right? Similarly, if we try to convert this scenario into our computer system, we had a processor and the data was getting generated at a very steady rate, and that too, it was in a very structured nature. It was very structured in nature, right? Which means it was the traditional database system, right? So our processor was again happy to process it, right? There was no speed issue, no other problems were there. So up to this, the things were working absolutely okay, right? Now, going ahead, Bob thought that let's start taking orders online because this is I want to earn more, and if I want to earn more, I will have to generate more revenue, right? So he started taking orders online, right? Now, what happens? They get more orders, right? Probably 10 orders per hour, right? Now, there is a single cook, yet there is a single cook, and there is a single food shelf. So now this cook has to work a lot because previously there were only 2 orders per hour. Now there are 10 orders per hour and very different orders. So the cook was not happy at all, right? Similarly, in our case also, Now heterogeneous data was being generated at an alarming rate. So there comes into picture our social media and all such things, right? So they had this um, unstructured, semi-structured, and structured all sort of data, and everything has to be processed by our single processor like a cook, right? So again there was a problem. So I hope all of you are able to imagine the problem or not. Yes. So I hope, oh, someone has raised hand. Jenish, any problem? Okay, fine. So what is the solution? What do you think? Oh, first of all, let's identify the problem. Now, previously the cook was getting only 2 orders per hour. Now he is getting 10 orders per hour. So, the cook is talking to you as a restaurant owner. What will you do as a restaurant owner to solve this problem? What will you do? Yes, exactly, right? So, your answers are good. We would obviously think of hiring more cooks, right? So similar, so the issue was too many orders per hour. Now solution is hire multiple cooks, right? So now is this scenario. Bob hired 5 cooks. So there was there, sorry, 4 cooks. So there was one single cook already. 4 more cooks are now hired, right? So now multiple cook are making food, but the food shelf is same. There is a single food shelf, right? So what was happening is most of the time they'll just struggle, they'll just fight each other because there is a single food shelf. So what is the problem now? Yes, what is the problem now? Yes, exactly. So the problem now is the food shelf is being the bottleneck, right? So what can be the solution? What can be the solution? Can you think of it? Okay. Okay. Fine. So, your answers are very near. So, let me just explain you the same problem in terms of our traditional system. So, because of the previous problem, what we did is we increased processing powers. So, maybe we went for more processing, the high processing powers and having lot of cores, right? So, we have been talking about, see, previously you all must be remembering that when you were a small kid, probably we had core 2 duo and dual core processor. I remember when dual core came, we were all amazed. Oh, now we have dual core machine with us. Right now, it is just there in the garbage, right? Nobody would like to go for dual core. Why? Because these days hexa cores are there, quad cores are there, right? So we have been increasing processing powers, right? So we increased processing power, but then the problem was, see, with this case, and with this case the scenario is little different. Why little different? The problem is, when someone has to process the data, right? Let's say I'm talking about this first CPU. This CPU has to process some data. What it will do, it will access this data warehouse, fetch the data, and it will access it. Similarly, this CPU, this core, let's say if it has to process something, it will again bring back the data to its own memory, right? Now what happens, there is lot of transmission which is taking place here, so lot of network overhead will be there. And when we are talking about big data, we are only talking about GBs, TBs, and petabytes, and yottabytes of data. If such a huge amount of data, if we are transmitting over our network, of course it would be simply congested, right? So this is the problem with our normal solution. So the issue too was, food shelf becomes the bottleneck. In our example, the data warehouse becomes the bottleneck. So what is the solution? The solution is distributed and parallel approach, right? So what is this approach? So this is going to be the most effective solution ever, right? And this would require little more time to explain. So I'm not talking about this effective solution right now, but we have talked about two problems and two solutions. Till now, if any one of you have any doubt, please do let me know. Everyone is with me? Great. So we are going to talk about this effective solution in the next class for sure. Only 1 minute is left, so I would not like to start it right now. So we'll start afresh in the next lecture for sure. So next lecture, please come bring back this story in your cache memory once again. Probably it's tomorrow only. So we'll talk about the solution in detail in the next class, right? So till then, keep it in your cache. So fine, that's where we can end today. Have a nice day. Thank you.